Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new independent Era 3 premium light tank, the Mjolnir. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Mew Mew! If you know that reference, well done you for the film. The Mjolnir. It is a Era 3 light tank that is the hull of the Stridsvorden and the turret and gun of the UDES 1516 from World War II, but obviously up-tiered to be in Era 3 in Cold War. What's it like as a tank? Well, it's got good DPM. That's that. It's got good DPM. Other than that, in Era 3, it really is outmatched by everything, which is a very similar story to some of the other light tanks in Era 3 that are single-shot guns and no multi-weapon system, because it fits in very much similarly to a vehicle like the VFM5, the M88GS, the Stingray, right, you know, all those kind of vehicles. It's just not the greatest tank in the universe, and that's because it has good camo, and it has good DPM, which is good. But Era 3 wolf packs are a thing, which means you don't get to use the camo that often. The gun is really derpy for Era 3, statistically, really strong. But it's very, very derpy. Aim time is pretty horrible. The mobility is decent, but at the same time, most MBTs go faster than it, so they outrun you very, very easily. You're as big as a house, so you're very, very easy to hit. So you get absolutely machine gunned by all the MBTs that go way quicker than you. They have better DPM than you generally, or similar DPM, you know, in that same regard anyway. And you will struggle to pen them at times and get some weird bounces. They won't bounce on you, which is a sad time. And it's one of those tanks that is just, it doesn't fit into Era 3 in the way that Era 3 is, to be honest. It would probably fit Era 2 a little bit better, to be honest, but there we go. The Mjolnir, like I say, it's not a tank that I truly enjoyed playing. I don't think it is that good, and it is blooming expensive as well. If we go to the Valhalla section of the store, as you can see, somewhere over here, we'll go to it. It's 17,400 gold. And we've got it down to 14,800 so far, but it'll be a little bit cheaper than that when we get the full discount. And again, it's still too expensive for that. It does make decent silver, but generally, yeah, way too expensive for this vehicle, as you will feel outclassed most of the time when you do play it, which is a sad, sad time. Yeah, it is what it is. I wouldn't waste my gold on it myself, personally, and I'm not going to buy it. I'm not buying this, for example, but there we go. So, yeah. The Mjolnir, let's get into the statistics of the vehicle. So as you can see, 75 km/h top speed with a 43 km/h reverse speed, 550 horsepower engine, is 20.91 horsepower per ton ratio with a 10% internal fire chance. Generally it doesn't get set on fire, so that's quite good. The horsepower per ton means you do hit your 75 km/h top speed, and if you were to run the traction system, you would hit the 82 km/h top speed you get out of that traction system if you wanted to go at full speed. But even then, like I say, most of the time you're still getting outrun by most of the MBTs, and you do struggle for pace compared to those vehicles, especially when they actually get to their top speed way quicker than you do, because it does feel a little bit sluggish to get there at times, which is just irritating. The backwards speed at 43 is not too bad. You got 46 degrees a second on the hull rotation, which means it does turn pretty quickly on its tracks, which is great. Terrain resistances, like all tanks in Cold War, doesn't hold it back whatsoever. It just doesn't affect it, to be honest. 286 meters of steel concealment is pretty decent. It means that you can get that down to about 180 something, I think it was, when I set it up properly, which means you are pretty damn difficult to spot, and you can find positions on maps where you can fire and not get spotted pretty easily and get quite a bit of damage on tanks that are preoccupied with smashing in face first into other vehicles, which is where the Mjolnir wants to be. It wants to be that support tank where it's really quite far away from the battle, because if it gets caught up in the wolf pack, it just dies. 580 meters of view range as well is pretty decent for the tank. It means it can spot for itself pretty well. 42 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slower than the hull, so bear that in mind, that the turret traverse being slower than the hull can be a bit annoying. I help that out, as it does annoy me, but that's just a personal preference, to be fair. You might not help that out, you might help out other things on the tank. You got 1.41 accuracy during rotation, with a 2.52 accuracy during movement, which for a Era 3 tank is really not very good. Most Era 3 tanks are going below that 2 on accuracy during movement, and below 1 quite easily on accuracy during rotation. And even then, there is so many MBTs now at Era 3 that have sub 0.6 accuracy during rotation and sub 0.9 accuracy during movement, which means that And that's even without the gun stabilizer, by the way, which means that they have aim circles that are basically always aimed in. This is the kind of accuracy that you get on a gun that's a 152mm gun, like on a 292 or on the Malo, etc., right? It's one of those weird ones that this is balanced like a bigger alpha gun, but it shouldn't be like that. It just means the gun feels really derpy, as the aim circle does bloom out quite a bit, and you have a 2.5 second aim time, which means it takes a wee while to actually even get aimed in. And again, considering a lot of the Era 3s are getting sub 2 second aim times, that's really poor for this vehicle, which can be royal pain. But you do have 0.28 accuracy at 100 meters, which is pretty good, and like, you'll get that lower, but it actually, to be fair, again, a lot of tanks are getting 0.25 or below, so it's, yeah, you start to sit there going, while statistically this is still really good, it suffers against a lot of the other Era 3s, which can be a bit irritating. You do have 10 degrees of gun depression though, which means you are pretty damn flexible on a ridgeline, which is great for the Mjolnir. You got 6.2 second reload, which is 4.9k DPM, which, again, you can get up to about 6.6 or 6.7k DPM, I think I got it up to, which is pretty good. But again, there's a lot of MBTs that are pushing that similar area, and that can be pretty poor. And if you consider something that was given away for free that you will get against a lot, the Asario, that's pushing, what, 7 to 8k DPM, something like that? Something mental? Yeah, so you do get outgunned in that regard a lot as well. But you've got 593mm of penetration on the standard APFS DS with 657, I was about to say 656, like what? That doesn't work. 657mm of penetration on the premium APFS DS, which, again, it's good enough. You'll pen most vehicles where you're going to shoot them with these penetrations, and for a single gun light tank in Era 3, that's actually not too bad. A lot of them haven't got quite that level of penetration, so we'll take it. 150mm of penetration on the HE as well with 640 alpha. It means you can HE things quite reliably, but bear in mind that you only have 780 meters a second shell velocity on that HE, so it does travel very, very slow, and it does loop, and it's a massive difference to the 1605 or the 1625 meters a second shell velocity that the standard and premium APFS DS have. So be careful of that. But it still means you hit decently against stuff like Malos and stuff when you have to HE them. And you do have a 155% silver bonus, which means it does make pretty decent silver, but you will find that you do fire a little bit of premium, which can eat into that a little bit for the Mjolnir. Let's have a look at the modules of the Mjolnir, and on Mew Mew, you've got the engine bay right there on the tank. You've got the little bar underneath the turret as well, which can damage your engine and set you on fire. But like I said, realistically, with 10% internal fire chance and the amount of times I've played this tank, I haven't really actually been set on fire that often. That's where the ammo rack is. It's only in the back of the turret, which means this thing doesn't get ammo racked very often, which is very, very nice. As, you know, that turret front is, for Era 3 standards, this turret front will end up getting penned quite a lot. But the angle's where it's at, and that angle means that occasionally, especially if you're using full gun depression, you can ricochet shots. Don't ever rely on it, though. You should never think, I've got armor. Just know that if you shoot this thing and you bounce on its turret, it's because the angle's pretty severe, and that means that APFS, DS, APCR, etc., can just ricochet, so be careful of that. But, yeah, the armor on it means that generally most people will shoot the hull, because look at the hull armor. It is non-existent. 40mm on that lower plate. The side armor's only 10mm thick, which means you get overmatched, that sort of thing. So, yeah, most people will just shoot the hull because it's a big box, which means you don't get ammo rack very often in the Mjolnir, which is pretty good for it, realistically. But, yeah, that's just the way it is with the modules and the armor. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, there's different ways. There's plenty of ways you could set up this vehicle, to be perfectly honest. I run smoke with the advanced loader, the gun stabilizer, and the camo net. And I run the camo net because I get it down to the good level of camo that you end up getting on this, with the gun stabilizer to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible, so it's somewhere in the realms of most Era 3 tanks, so I can at least try and fight back and hit targets, because if you do not help the accuracy during movement and rotation, the aim circle bloom is large, and since the aim time is also poor, it takes too long to get this gun aimed in, when most tanks in Era 3 will just RBRT you and hit you on the move with pure accuracy ease, right, which is irritating, whereas this tank can't do it. It will miss shots left, right, and centre if it tries to do that. So you really need to help it with the gun stabilizer and the advanced loader, because the only real strength the tank has is DPM. So you really need to help the DPM of the vehicle. if I was to run the traction system, I would drop the camo net and anticipate that I don't have the best camo in the universe. And, sorry, well, anticipate that I don't have the best camo I could get on it, but I still have decent camo. And then just run that I could go at 82 kilometers an hour. And that way, you will travel faster, but you still get run down by most of the MBTs. In my experience, I do have a replay where I will show you my speed build, which is with the traction system and fuel instead of a med kit, which made me go at 86 kilometers an hour. And while it was nice to go faster, you still got run down by quite a few of the light tanks, still got run down by quite a few of the MBTs, so it was just nicer to have, in my experience, the way I played it, to have that little extra camo just so that I could stay unspotted in certain areas and mean that I didn't get focused down, because a lot of the time when I was playing this vehicle, people saw the Mjolnir, went, "It's a big box," and just chased it and killed it, and you go, oh, well, cool. And in terms of the crew, I have stuck it in the STRF, and we are going to put it back into Mjolnir, and as you can see, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Rapid Aim, Camouflage Expertise, and Muffled Shot. So the 3 gun perks to make sure this gun is as good as possible, because like I say, it's incredibly derpy if you don't help it, and in an era where every single MBT is super accurate on its gun, and as soon as you get spotted will RBRT you easily and hit you every time, and you can't do that, you really have to help the gun. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse better, because it is slower than the tracks, and it's one of my personal bugbears. When a turret is slower than the tracks, it can be really irritating, so I help it out with that. And then the Camouflage Expertise and Muffled Shot to help the camo out and reduce the effect of firing on my camo, so I can stay unspotted for longer, get extra shots in without being spotted, and then I'm not lit up and people won't just RBRT me, which is what I tried to hope for, which is why I've set up for camo. But again, plenty of ways you can set up the vehicle. If the track traverse annoys you, you could run clutch braking. If you want to try and get your smoke back quicker, you could run supply conservation. If you're figuring that you're going to get hit all the time and you want to reduce the amount of damage coming in, you could run armor angling. It's really down to you and how you want to play the vehicle after all, as there's no right or wrong way to truly set up a tank. But that's the way I run it, just so I can get that sort of 177 meters of still concealment, and then I can spot for my team as well at decent times, where I can get some pretty damn good assistance damage. And as well as that, like I say, play at distance where I can farm up. So here's the statistics of the vehicle while it's fully kitted out with what I've got. As you can see, we've got it up to 604 meters of view range, 177.85 meters of still concealment, which is the same as your movement concealment because it is a light tank, which is really, really good. You've got 0.83 accuracy during rotation, which is all right. It's not great, it's not bad. And you've got 1.53 accuracy during movement, which again is not great, but it's not bad. And in Era 3 standards, it's probably actually pretty poor, to be honest. But it's manageable, and that's what it's for. But you do have a 2.4 second aim time, which is not great. And the aim circle does bloom out, so you do have to suffer that aim time, which can be annoying for a tank in Era 3, where I'd say most are pretty much ready to snapshot. 0.24 accuracy at 100 meters means it is pretty damn accurate, but as you're probably going to see in some of the replays, the gun doesn't act like it. It likes missing shots everywhere, which is so frustrating. You've got 4.76 second reload, which is actually 6.4k DPM. I was wrong. It's 6.4k DPM, which, again, is not too bad, but it's also not fantastic. It's just the only real key strength this tank has with that 510 alpha. And, yeah, it just gets outclassed in most other ways, which is a sad time for Mew Mew. It really is. So, yeah, that's the Mjolnir. That's how I set it up. That's what we have in terms of the statistics when it's fully equipped and without. What I'm going to do now is send you into some replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, just see if it's a bit of you or not. So, as always, everybody, I will see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with Mjolnir, and this first replay is on Go Round Like a Donut Pass. And to be fair, this game is indicative of majority of my games I ever play in Era 3, which is, we go around like a donut. So we're just going to charge up the 1 line, then down the B line, then probably back down the 9 line, and then back down the HJK line. Because that's what happens every time you play Duckler Pass, and it's what happens on majority of the maps in Era 3, because wolf packs, and stick with your wolf pack, you win, generally. So, what we're going to do with Mjolnir is try and stick with our team and catch out anyone that is just silly enough to not follow their wolf pack. This 490 Belka is the first opportunity that we're going to see, and I really want to get after them because I imagine they'll be distracted by my team as they charge forwards down the B line, so I can get up behind him and start shooting him in the behind. So what I want to do is get up behind this Belka, use my great DPM to my advantage and get a lot of damage. But what I also have to be careful of is being shot from G7 and 8. So we pop smoke straight away. This will keep me covered from anybody that will prop up at G7 and 8, in which case their team will definitely pop up there very, very soon. So we need to just make sure to get rid of this Belka as soon as possible while the smoke is still up, and that way we won't take an ATGM or something like that. So the Belka's gone. We managed to get 1,600 damage so far. Look for the shot into that Jaguar 1, which we get him, putting us up to 2.1k damage. And that is the thing that is quite nice about the Mjolnir, is the fact that the DPM is on a par with a lot of the other MBTs in Era 3. And that is a nice thing for the Mjolnir, because at least it's not absolutely out-DPM'd like some of the other tanks are. It can at least keep up within the other MBTs in terms of the DPMs. It's just the fact that you have to aim for their weak spots to actually be able to pen them, and majority of the time they don't have to aim to pen you, they just slap you. As you've just seen with an ATGM from, what was that Jaguar 1 I shot earlier on, he just went, hello, ATGM, bang, and there goes 1,300 of my hit points just like that. So I see the Asario. I'm going to keep him on my right behind the rock while getting up behind this AMX-40. We get an RBRT shot into the back of the AMX-40, but what I really should have done is gone straight for the track. Why? Well, we've gone for it this time because we'd have got a lot of assistance damage just from tracking him, just like we did there. We've got 1,200 assistance from just tracking the guy. We should have done that in the first place and we'd have got his whole health in tracking, which is always something you want to try and look for in Era 3, is track, track, track. If you can track someone, especially when they're about to get ganked by about, well, the whole wolf pack, you'll get 3,000-4,000 tracking assists straight away. The only thing you've got to be careful of is that what will quite happen is the fact that you'll blow track off and then they instantly put it back on. And then you sit there going, oh, as their whole hit points just evaporate. But if you do it at the right moment and they've already used their repair kit, you'll get the whole tracking assist, and it is a beautiful thing. So we're up to 4.1k damage, 2k assistance. We've just crested the 4th minute of this game, and we are... Well, in fact, it's not even the 4th minute. The 3rd minute of this game. We've just crested the 3rd minute of this game. It's 14-8. We've managed to make it all the way back to our base, trying to keep the resets going, but, well, we don't have to worry about that anymore as the enemy team is screwed. I was trying to go for that back drive wheel, but a bit of poor aim there meant that I didn't quite get it, and then it gets absolutely destroyed, because, yeah, that's what happens when you don't follow your wolf pack. 4 of their tanks tried to cap, and the other 4 to 5 tanks that were with them in that wolf pack carried on going up the 2 line, whereas our whole wolf pack, except for 1 or 2 people, kept going. So the whole wolf pack, the whole team, ended up going straight into the stragglers, and we killed them all. And that's the way Era 3 goes. It tends to be the team that stops following each other in terms of wolf pack just dies, because they get caught out by the enemy wolf pack, and then they get finished off. But there's only 2 tanks left on the enemy team currently. It's 2 TDs, which I think are 2 weasels. One that's running around at A2, and another one that was spotted towards where we are currently capping. So this is kind of where I wish I had the speed build, which I'll have a replay for in a game or 2. And that is so that we could go at that 86 kilometers an hour, because that would help us get there that little bit faster to try and get after this Weasel Toes. He is the last one alive, but, you know, 75 is still good enough. And hello, Mr. Weasel. We're going to try and snapshot it on the move. There we go. And you can see, even on the move, because we've helped the gun handling so much, that aim circle is still fairly small. But we still have to wait that little extra second for it to aim in. You saw that when we were shooting at the Magak as well, when he was next to the house in the cap. We had to aim to make sure we were going to hit it, otherwise we'd probably have missed. Finished that first game, though, with the 5.2k damage, bit of assistance. Fairly average game there for the Mjolnir on Dukla Pass, which, like I say, is indicative of what happens a lot. Especially on that map, but in a lot of games in general in Era 3. So, we're on to the second replay, and this second replay, we are here on this map, which is Kaunas. And on Kaunas, what I'm going to do is go and sit at C6 and wait for them to make the obvious pushes that the team generally do make, which is across that gap there, or they have some sort of ATGM tank or of the like. Hello, Mr. Jaguar 1, thank you for proving my point. Some ATGM tank generally goes and sits in that position that we just shot there, and tries to ATGM things, because it's a very good position to get early shots off. So we got a nice shot into the Jaguar 1. I'm going to poke round to see if we can see them again as they go through the smoke. But there was no one there, so I decided, okay, you know what, I'm just going to pop a blind fire, because you never know, if we hit that shot, we hit that shot. And this is where it's nice to have the good camo on the Mjolnir, and why I like the camo setup. Because that BMP running around over there meant that he couldn't see me until I fired, and it's nice to have that asset, because again, if there's something with an ATGM in, as it just fired at us, something with an ATGM in, the likelihood is the moment you get spotted, they will fire an ATGM at you. So if there's a light tank running around like a headless chicken in the middle, and they just spot you because you don't have your camo set up, it means you miss out on a free shot of damage. And if you are trying to make sure you're getting your gun aimed in, you're trying to get your shot in on them, you're more likely to take a hit, which is why it's nice to have that little bit of extra camo. So we're up to 1,836 damage with 1,331 assistance. We see the MBT, which is the Asario, who very rarely needs help because the Asario is just bang overpowered, to be fair. But we're going to go and try and create a crossfire. So I was going for the tracking shot, and the shot went to the far left and hit the lower plate and penned him. I mean, I'll take the pen. But I was really hoping to track that STRV-122A directly in front of my Asario, and since the Asario is just a bonkers tank with bonkers DPM, I was like, oh, you know what, I'll get a load of assistance. But yeah, that didn't happen. We're just going to YOLO past the STRV, though, to put a shot into his side. Fortunate enough for me, he bounces off our back end, and we're going to wait for the smoke to dissipate so I can hopefully get a cheeky shot into the back of him, because I popped smoke in the hopes that he wouldn't be able to get a shot at us, but, well, he did anyway, but he bounced. We managed to get the RBRT into the back end of the STRV-122 as he was going after the Asario. The Belka on our left is currently fleeing the tank destroyer that's at G9. And so we're going to try and get this Belka out and chase them, because naturally the Belka doesn't have a fully traversable turret, so it's easier to get after them as they can't shoot at us while we can shoot at them, generally. So we managed to hit one shot on the move. The second shot hits the back end of the Belka and ricochets. We're going to make sure that we aim that shot up perfectly as we do the drive-by, and we finish off the Belka there with a shot into the back of it. And now we're behind at the Leopard 2A4 and the tank destroyers. Now we're getting pretty good RNG here that the gun is actually going, yes, I shall hit these shots, because generally, shots go exactly like that. That shot that we just took on the move against that Belka is basically what happens every single time. The gun is pretty damn inaccurate, especially when you're on the move compared to a lot of Era 3s. But once you stop and you get to be able to aim in your shots and let this DPM reign, it can be a beautiful, beautiful thing, because the DPM is very, very nice on this Mjolnir. It is one of the only real key strengths of the tank, realistically, alongside the camouflage. So we get the shot into the 490 Belka to finish him off for our fourth kill of this game. We're up to 6.3k damage, 1481 assistance damage, and we finished the game with the epic victory, third on the team with those 4 kills. Pretty decent game there for the Mjolnir with the second class and the 1287 base XP. Again, another fairly average game for an Era 3 tank there on Countess. But now we're on to the third replay, and this third replay is on Mountain Pass, and we are speed building it. So now we have the traction system and we have the fuel instead of a med kit, so that we are going full speed ahead. So we've got an 86 kilometer in our top speed, which we'll try and use to our advantage to keep up with our team and flank round the enemy positions. So we're trying to spot the cross a little bit here on Mountain Pass, while also getting cheeky shots towards the enemy team as they cross themselves. We managed to get one in so far, but the Derp guns let us down a wee bit, as well as we've also had a few shots just drop low and not do the damage, or just miss the side of Asario like that. We see the light tanks though, like the Jaguar 1 and the other tank that was unspotted there cross, so I tried to get a shot in, but the shot went absolutely nowhere near where we were aiming truly there, and so it went a bit high and missed. So what I'm going to do again is try and get into a position where we can get this Asario. But we see the Marder, put a shot into the Marder there while we wait for the Asario to get aggressive and get over here. Now, the one thing you've got to be careful of with the Mjolnir here is aiming over the back of the tank. Because if you aim over the back of the tank, you will lose gun depression, and that can make it pretty awkward. So be careful of doing that with this vehicle. But we're in the perfect scenario while going after this Asario. He is going to be caught in a crossfire. If he wants to come over and shoot me, if he wants to come over and shoot my friends, one of us is going to have a shot at him. He came over to try and shoot me, my friends blew him up. He kept popping up to try and shoot my friends, I shot him. It's a win-win. And that's the gun handling right there. The shot on the side of the M1 just goes, you know what? I like the floor. The floor is a great thing. I will hit it. And you go, thanks, Mjolnir. I really wanted you to hit the floor. It's always great when you do that. So, now that we've done with that early sniping across the way, our team has moved into the dip. But I don't really want to go into that dip because they have people at H4, which can quite easily shoot down into that dip, and there's not much we're going to be able to do about that. So I want to help my team win this little engagement on the corner, because there's a few of the MBTs here. We want to get rid of their MBTs, and we can progress through. So I'm just trying to keep this Leclerc damaging, essentially. We're going to try and keep damaging this Leclerc, keep him pinned, and keep his HP going down so that we can progress this fight. We've taken one hit from him. He's now fired at my ally, so my ally tracks him. We put a shot into his lower plate, and I think, okay, you know what, with my DPM, with my reload, I should just about out-reload that Leclerc and his 140mm gun, or the Leclerc T4, that is. And we do, and we shut him down. So now it's just the Charlie left on this flank. We get around the Challenger 2, put a shot into his side, and he gets finished off by the Belker. So we're going to drop down off of that little ledge so that we can try and flank behind the Belker and this heavy tank, or the MBT, that's the M1A2, that are coming from the bridge area. Because if we come from the same place as the rest of our team, they might be looking our way. We put a shot into the back end of the M1A2. Poor shot, really. We should have got the tracking shot, and we'd have got a lot of assistance, but hey-ho. Look for the finish, and we track him. Full side shot, it just tracks, because why not? We go for the shot into the side of the Belker there, and it goes to the far left of the aim circle, and hits the rocks only. We get rammed out by the way by our MBT, which is not shocking. You always get rammed out by the way by your own teammate in Era 3. Just because of the speed of things, people underestimate how fast they're going, and they always ram you out of the way. But luckily, we weren't loaded. So we finished the game with 1 kill, 7.2k damage, 728 assistance. The Confederate, the second class, for that 1279 base XP. Pretty decent game there for the Mjolnir with the speed build. You saw it get to that 86 kilometers an hour, and the extra speed can be helpful, keeping up with the fast-paced games that are in Era 3. But to be honest, I do like having that camo, because there's so many situations where you stay unspotted for that little bit longer, and that little bit longer means that people just slip past you and they go focus on other targets, and while they're focusing on other targets, you can then farm them up and use what is the strength of the tank in the DPM. And naturally, being a single weapon system light tank like this, which are generally pretty obsolete in Era 3, to be fair, because the MBTs do the same job, but just way, 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 way better than you. Unlike, say, the multi-weapon system light tanks, right, where they have a purpose because they have the ATGMs, which has that stopping power. This just has good DPM with a pretty decent gun that is derpy at the best of times. And then you'd say, well, it's got good mobility, 75 kilometers an hour, but a lot of the other MBTs also have that 70 to 80 kilometer an hour top speed. So you sit there going, well, yeah, we're good in a top speed, but a lot of the MBTs do the same thing. They've got pretty decent DPM similar to ours, but they've got way better gun handling. The only real thing I have over them is probably camo. Yeah, so it's just the pain of it, and having that camo gives you the ability to do something like this. Now, obviously, True Vision's the thing. If they wanted to, they could see me if they were looking my way. But I just keep myself in a little bush, keep moving backwards and forwards on the ridgeline, and I'm keeping the campers lit up, which is feeding me assistance damage. We're up to 4.1k damage. I knew the Asario was going to spot me as I poked up to spot it, but I wanted to spot it so that hopefully people will blap it. Like that as an ATGM slaps it. Because that Asario goes, and then I can go back to sitting in my bush, spotting the opposite team, or push up to a position like H9 and keep spotting them up again and getting shots into the side, etc, etc. But the Asario is the stopping point for us right now. So we're going to keep being cheeky. Mr. Asario's gone. Great. We're going to keep being cheeky and keep poking over to see if we can get a shot, but we do have to be careful, because naturally, we don't want to take an ATGM. We take an ATGM, it's going to really hurt us, and yeah, we don't want that. The enemy team's wolfpack down the JK line are now progressing up to our base, and our team is pretty damn spread out, which is always a bad time in Cold War, because as soon as a team ends up spread out like this, and their team stays compact for the most part, it can go badly pretty quickly, and especially when the team stays in position, and I'd say it's partly my fault at this point, right, that the team stayed in certain positions sniping. And the reason that it's my fault is because they stopped to shoot the targets. Shoot the targets that I am spotting myself, you know? One of those. So we get a shot into the Marder. We're spotting up this BMP, which I was really hoping would actually get blapped, but hasn't done so. And that's because the tanks that we're shooting my way, except for the ones at B90, are currently starting to deal with the influx of enemy wolf pack that is pushing up the 1-2. So sadly we missed the shot on the Marder. Whoa! Key dokies? Where did that one go? Alright. To the moon! That's where that one went. So I'm seeing that I actually have shots at the enemy team as they are crossing. So we're... Oh, wow, that shot missed. Quite badly. So we are going to try our best to shoot the opposite team as they go up the 1-2, because we'll get easy shots into their side and rear. But my light tank and MBTs are starting to progress on the K1 on the tanks in front of me, so I kind of have to turn my attention to that as well. Sadly, we didn't get the smoking in time to avoid the ATGM, so we took a big ATGM hit there, but we're just trying to keep this DPM flowing while they're not looking at us. We get a shot into the K1. Now we have to get up behind this Leopard 2A4 and get closer to the rock area, because we don't want to take another ATGM in the side, as that would be, well, curtains, bad time, you know, as another ATGM does come flying past. Their Rosario comes balls to the walls aggressive in. Our shot goes low and ricochets off the underside of the Rosario rather than hitting his whole side that we had aimed in. Looking for it this time though, and it does finally go in. This game is very indicative of the gun. There is a lot of shots we're going to miss in this game that we sit there going, did you really miss that gun? As there's a lot of other guns in Era 2 and 3 really, but Era 3 mainly, that have way better gun stats than us, and there's this majority of the guns. And the shots that we miss with this gun, they wouldn't be. And that can be the pain of Mjolnir. Because we bounced off the side of the Macarva there. We didn't do any damage, but that's because the gun said, no, I'm going to hit low and do track damage only. We're trying to keep ourselves in position where it's harder for them to be able to shoot us and get damage into them. The shot on the flat side of the STRV-122A goes extremely low and does tracks only. Well, it tracked him. And yeah, their team is now wolfpacking back towards us. This is not looking like a good time. So we try and get a shot into the Macarva Mark 1. It goes low, does track damage only when we had the whole side again. Belka we're going to struggle to pen at this range, so I really want to try and get some farming shots into this Macarva as he's coming over, because he will get to us. But naturally, like every tank in Era 3, that guy goes, oh, light tank spotted. RBRT, bang, got you, instantly. I can't do that. I will miss majority of my shots. He just goes, lol, snap, bang. Majority of MBTs do it, and that's why I say that's the frustrating thing about the Mjolnir, because you can't keep up with Era 3 in the way that that happens, because of the fact that your gun just isn't that great, even though it's got pretty good actual accuracy stats, because of the aim time, because of the accuracy during movement rotation being not the best, and we've helped it out with everything humanly possible as well. It still just loves a good miss. So we're trying to support this KWS-3. The Macarva Mark 1 is going in on this KWS-3. We really just need to keep the shots flowing with the good DPM, because getting rid of this guy first is the key to winning this little engagement. So we've got more and more shots into this Macarva. Second shot in, we should be able to finish him off with the next shot. The Belka's still busy with the KWS-3. No, the Belka's not busy with the KWS-3. He just turned to shoot us. But sadly for us, we ended up still losing that game. We finished with 2 kills, 8.4k damage, 8.4k assistance. The patrol duty, 842 base XP on a loss, and that was actually one of the best games I played in the tank as well. It was just a sad time that we ended up losing that, because their team managed to just keep sticking together. And what happened is the 4 tanks at the end all split up, and their 5 stuck together and killed them, which is, yeah, sad times for us. So we're on to the 5th and final replay of this video, and this time we are on Thiepval. And on Thiepval, what I'm going to do is go to a position like F6, which is a little bit risky in Era 3, because what tends to happen is you get an MBT or 2 or 3 that just charge straight down the 789 line. They don't stop. They just come straight over the ridgeline and charge. And in fact, Mr. Leopard 2A5, again, prime example, Mr. Leopard 2A5 does this. They just charge straight over the ridge, no regard for anything, no regard for whether our whole team had charged there, and so they're going to keep going. And this Leopard 2A5 is fully locked onto the fact that I'm a light tank and easy to pen, and they are still charging for us. They're not stopping. They only want... Look at this Leopard 2A5 is like, I want it! I must kill the light tank. Light tank pest must die. And they blew up. That's what happens so often for Mjolnir. That happens all the time. For any kind of single weapon system light tank, M8 AGS, VFM5, Stingray, this tank, an MBT like a Leopard 2A5, which is fast enough to keep up with us quite easily, will just go, ooh, lunch, and just chase you. And a lot of the time, they do not care in Era 3 whether you're leading them into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of your tanks. They will lock onto you, RBRT you, farm you to death, and keep chasing you to their own death. And that happens all the time. Because they have the gun handling, the DPM, and the mobility to do it, they will kill you, but kill themselves at the same time by running into your team. Which is why it's always the best case to do is exactly what we did there when we ran round behind him. Is that we ran behind him and the plan was always just run towards where my guns are and they shall be able to take care of it. And they did. But you don't always have the luxury of being able to do that. And quite often you'll go, aha, I'm going to run towards my guns where I can't get rid of this guy. He's managed to take all of my hit points. And we've only just finally reached my team and I'm dead. But, well, they've just died because they've followed me. But it still doesn't matter for me because I'm dead, right? Which is sad. But we're now behind the McCarver, and Mr. McCarver decides to turn around and shoot us again, rather than stick to shooting the several tanks in front of them. We get a shot into the 640 before we get shut down by the Leclerc. And we're up to 6.5k damage with 1,269 giggity assistance damage, where all of our teams together here at F6. We've got a couple of tanks up at A, B6, and the rest of their team is all going to be piling out of the town soon. We are 11, well, make that 10 tanks up to 9, so it's still fairly close, but they're going to be driving out into a crossfire if they do drive straight out into the open. So we're going to try and keep ourselves a little bit on the periphery, because I don't want to be the focus of that wolf pack. It's going to go badly if that's the case. We went for the shot into the 2A5, but, well, the 2A5 just stopped. But even then, even if that 2A5 hadn't stopped, it still went to the far left of the reticle and would have missed anyway. The second shot on his side, fully aimed, when, you know what, I'm just going to go to the far wide angle and hit his upper plate and bounce. Thanks, gun, it's great of you. We did manage to get a few more shots into him. We take a shot towards the upper plate, lower plate of the Leopard 2, which is going to be a bit of a difficult shot, realistically. And we bounced the second shot after missing the first one. So the Belka's charged into my T-72BM. I'm not going to let this guy murder my BM. We need to go help our teammate out as quickly as possible, especially since there'll be another MBT with him. So we go for the shot into the side of the Belka, and it just hits the floor, which, like I say, this gun likes to do that. Hit the floor again, and like I say, in a lot of the other MBTs, I would be hitting these shots from the Belka pretty easily because their guns are so magnificent generally. So I pop smoke. The smoke is to protect me from the other Belka. Where did... Okay, gun. Okay, game. Thanks for that. I think that was because of the lag. I had a random ping spike there, which is... So it fired where I was aiming a second ago. But yeah, I digress. We popped the smoke to keep myself safe from the other Belka and friends so that we could keep getting some shots towards this Belka. But sadly, my gun had other ideas. And apart from the one lag spike moment, every other shot... probably, even if it wasn't going to pen, should have still hit that Belka. And it went, you know what, you know, I kind of feel like hitting the floor or missing these guys. I'm a pacifist now, okay? I don't want to go to Valhalla. I just like to make friends with other tanks and not shoot them. Because tanks are friends, not food. And then you have to sit there going, we're not in Finding Nemo, tank, come on. But anyway, I digress. Mr. Belka here is a one-shot. We get around the Belka because that's the only thing we can really do. The Asario actually shot us there, but we finished off the Belka. Didn't quite reload in time to shut down the Asario. And finished the game with the victory. The second on the team. 1 kill, 8,014 damage, 1613 assistance. The second class, the Confederate, with that 1388 base XP. A pretty decent game there for the Mjolnir on that map, which was... Heilbronn, and I really hope I showed a decent spread of games for this tank so you get every little bit of what it's like. Like I say, it's one of those that is just, it's part of an obsolete set of tanks really in Era 3 where they do the same job as an MBT, but the MBTs just do the job better. And it's a pretty damn expensive tank as well. So for me personally, it's not really worth it, and I definitely won't be buying it myself. But there we go. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching it. I'll see you next time.
A great success!